mentor. He's a spiritual teacher. He's a monk. So he's primarily based in Houston, but he guides us from there. We are truly blessed to have Prabhu's association on this New Year day, very auspicious. And Prabhu is going to give us the New Year message, how we have to move forward in 2021 and do more services to Guru and Krishna. And of course, in our individual Krishna conscious growth as well. So with that, let us welcome Radha Krishna Prabhu by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Over to you, Prabhu.
Jai, Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see all of you are here for the New Year. Happy New Year. And so we'll start. Satya Sai Prabhu told me we are all reading Bhagavatam 8th Canto, the Gajendra prayers. So based on that, I will read from the verse 6. So you can also look at that. Right?
Yes, Prabhu. If you want, we can share the screen, Prabhu. I can do it.
Okay, go ahead. You do it.
Okay, Radha Damas, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm going to share. So this is 8th Canto, chapter
3, 6.
I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nasta Prayasva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Alright, Srimad Bhagavatam 8th Canto, Chapter 3, Gajendra's Prayers, verse 6. I will chant and then I'll do the translation. You can follow on your own, you don't have to turn on the microphone. Nayasya deva rishaya padam vidu jantu punakor hadigantu miritum yatana tasya kritibi vichastato duradhyayanu kramana samavatu. We'll chant one more time. Nayasya deva rishaya padam vidur jantu punakor hadigantu miritum yatana tasya kritibi vichastato duradhyayanu kramana samavatu. Translation, if you can bring that up, thank you. An artist on stage being covered by attractive dresses and dancing with different movements is not understood by his audience. Similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist cannot be understood even by the demigods or great sages, and certainly not by those who are unintelligent like animals. Neither the demigods and sages nor the unintelligent can understand the features of the Lord, nor can they express in words his actual position. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A similar understanding was expressed by Kunti Devi. The Supreme Lord exists everywhere, within and without. He even exists within the heart. Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivisto. Ishvara sarvabhutanam riddeshi arjuna tistati. Thus, It is indicated that one can find the Supreme Lord within one's heart. There are many yogis trying to find him. Dhyana vastita tadgatena manasa pasyanti yam yoginaha. Nonetheless, even great yogis, demigods, saints, and sages have been unable to understand the bodily features of that great artist, nor could they understand the meaning of his movements. What then is to be said of ordinary speculators like the so called philosophers of this material world? For them, he is impossible to understand. Therefore, we must accept the statements given by the Supreme when he kindly incarnates to instruct us. We must simply accept the word of Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in their footsteps. Then it may be possible for us to know the purpose of the incarnations. Janma karma chami devyam evam yoveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mamiti so Arjuna. If by the Lord's grace one can understand him, one will immediately be delivered, even within this material body. The material body will no longer have any function, and whatever activities take place with the body will be activities of Krishna consciousness. In this way, one may give up his body and return home back to Godhead. Okay, so let's see. Now you can remove the yes, thank you. Now I can see all of you. So okay, so nayasya deva rishaya padam vidu jantu punakor hati gantumiritum yada natasya kritivi vichastato duratyaya nukramana samavatu. Translation once more. An artist on stage being covered by attractive dresses and dancing with different movements is not understood by his audience. Similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist cannot be understood even by the demigods or great sages, and certainly not by those who are unintelligent like animals. Neither the demigods and sages nor the unintelligent can understand the features of the Lord, nor can they express in words his actual position. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshushan Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Garati Vachunam Bangam Langete Girim Yatkipatama Mandi Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodata Gadadaya Pushpante Chitra Santa Tamonuda. So once again, Happy New Year to all of you. So Srila Prabhupada said that so far as we are concerned, as devotees, our New Year is actually, he says, every day, because Krishna is always performing Nitya Leela. Nitya Leela means that all his pastimes are always going on, either in this universe or in some other universe, or in all the universes sometimes. Uh, so it is just like he says, like the rising sun. The sun rises at a specific time generally. So let's say, assuming every day the sun rises at 6:30 all around the world. So if it's 6:30 here and now the sun is rising, then after a while, 6:30 in another part of the country, they also will see the sun rising, and then another part of a different country. And so as the planet rotates, the sun is always rising. So Krishna's pastime is always going on, and therefore Krishna is eternally situated. So it's always a new year every day. So that's how Srila Prabhupada wants us to uh, appreciate it in that sense. No? So because he is Nitya Lila, eternal, so everything is continuously going on like that. Now, in this particular verse, we can see Gajendra is praying. Remember, Gajendra understands there is a supreme person. but he is not able to figure out who that Supreme Person is. But he knows that's the Supreme Person. And therefore he is worshipping to that Supreme Person. And this particular verse, you can see how if Gajendra knows so much prayers, so many prayers, and he's saying even those who are so qualified in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their abilities, the sages, the demigods, they also have difficulties understanding Krishna. So in the Vedas, it is described how great Krishna is. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate natat samascha vidikascha drishyate. Nobody can be found to be greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, okay, or equal to him. Okay, let me turn off my cell phone. Since it's a new year, people are sending all the new year things and pinging too much noise here. um, so although Krishna is the greatest artist here, you can see, he doesn't have to do anything personally. On his own, he doesn't need to. He can, but he doesn't need to. So in our own situation, we know in our own interactions with each other that somebody is sometimes lesser than some of us, right? They're not as good as us. So we know and we are very proud of that. And then somebody else is equal to us, and then we are not so happy, and then someone is better than us, then we really don't want to know about those people like that. So that's the nature of this material world. That is our experience. However great we may be, we will find somebody equal to or greater than us. It's normal, and it's a fact within this material world. We cannot all say we are the best and that's the end of the story. No, eventually someone will be better than us. We see that happening even in the Olympics, right? So if someone is running so fast and he's the best, he's so proud. But after 4 years, someone else is faster than him. So these things keep happening. So that is our experience. So we should accept that. But as far as Krishna is concerned, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the great sages, so many sages, they have accepted and concluded by their own research and experiment, right? We know the Brigupati, right? Brihaspati or Brigupati. He goes to test Narayana, he goes to test Lord Shiva, he goes to test Lord Brahma, and he comes to a conclusion that of all the three personalities, Narayana is the supreme. So therefore, all the great sages, they have come to this conclusion by their own research and experiment. So we don't have to do any more research. Okay, someone has already done it, so we don't have to do again. Then nobody is equal to the Supreme Personality. No one is greater than the Supreme Personality. So therefore, we accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we take it from also these great personalities like Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Narada, Madhvacharya, Sankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, and of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and then our own Acharyas, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and coming down the line of Srila Prabhupada, and then our own spiritual masters and so on. So it's not easy to understand Krishna, but we have to accept it through the Guru Parampara or someone who understands the Supreme Lord better than us. So in the first canto, first verse, where Vyasadeva writes, right? He says about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He gives the acknowledges and glorifies the Supreme Person. There he says, Muyanti Yatsurayaha, Muyanti. What does it mean? Even by Krishna, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. Muyanti Yatsurayaha. Sura means Sura refers to demigods, and Sura also refers to those who are great sages. But they also are placed into great illusion. It's because they don't know how Krishna sometimes behaves, how he manifests. It is so difficult. So here we see Gajendra is saying that he is in ignorance. Gajendra is saying, because why? He has an animal body. And so how could he's saying, how can I understand Krishna or the Supreme Lord? Uh, Even the great sages and demigods cannot really know him. So how can I know? But he says, but my Lord, you are in my heart, right? You are residing in my heart. So please hear my plea and protect me. Which is why Srila Prabhupada writes, quotes the verse, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Virdesharjuna Tistati Brahmayam Sarvabhutanam Yantra Rudani Ni Mayaya. The Lord is situated everywhere, all over the creation He's situated. And in the same way He's situated in our hearts. And so He says, oh Arjuna, Riddesha Arjuna. So Arjuna, I'm in the heart and I am directing the wanderings of all the living entities who are seated. Like we are all in this body. Our body is like a machine and it's made by the material energy. So we are sitting in the material body thinking this is me, I am this is who I am, falsely identifying and thinking I am so good, I'm so wonderful, this person is my enemy, this person is my friend, like that. But actually we are just a jiva, each and every one of us are sitting in a machine. Just like when you're driving your car, someone sees, they only see the car, they cannot see there's a person driving inside. They can see some silhouette, but they can't really understand there's someone who is uniquely qualified who's sitting inside the car. So, but they are driving the machine. But then they can only drive on the road that is made by the government. And the road will only go to some places. So in that way, the Lord is directing the wanderings of the living entities. According to their desires, the road is going one way and you're driving this way and that way. Like so even though the Lord is in our hearts, still we sometimes look elsewhere. Why? Because we do not know that He is actually helping us in our aimless journey. Our life has no aim in general. Unless we become Krishna conscious, life is meaningless. Huh? Look at this pandemic. Look at all these people, right? So many people. And they are all so unhappy and they don't know what to do. Because why? Their life is meaningless. Without enjoying, like yes, last night they all must have been cursing this pandemic because they cannot go out and get drunk and become meaningless, So they are all thinking like this. Okay. So in general, the Lord is in our hearts and He is silent as the Paramatma. But He's Upadrastamantascha, Bharta Bhakta Maheshwara. He's giving you, He's the permitter, He's the witness. So He provides us with our needs according to our desires and karma. But as Bhagavan Krishna, He has nothing to do in this material world. As Paramatma, He's in the material universe. But as Krishna, the Supreme Personality, He's nothing to do in this material world. So Krishna or God, He's great. He is so great that He has nothing to do. Basically, nothing to do means nothing to do with material things. He has so many pastimes He does spiritually. But materially, nothing to do. He has no duties like all of us. We have so many duties to perform. But he does anyway perform some activity. So therefore, natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Why? Because He has so many ways of interacting with the living entities and He wants to interact. And He interacts with His own energies in different ways. Why and how can He do that? Because He has so much potency. So it is stated in the Upanishads, Parasya Shakti Vivideva Sruyate Swabhavika Jnana Bala Kriyacha. That means He has so many Shakti. And it's multipotency, so many. And they are all so perfect. that they act so perfectly that the consciousness, swabhavika jnana balakriya, strength and activity are directed by the will of the Lord. Whatever he desires, his energies will go and do those things. So that is amazing. When we desire, it cannot happen. We have to put our effort in it. Then we get some result, and maybe it is not exactly what we want. We get something. But Krishna's potencies are different. Krishna is different. He is supreme. Whatever he desires by his will, it manifests immediately. And so he has so many energies, multifarious, and they are working automatically according to his desires. Therefore, swabhavika, by his will, things happen so nicely and perfectly that they appear to be carried out automatically. Just like you press a button, suddenly it works, right? You don't know how the mechanism is. So in the same way, the Lord, he just thinks, I want this, boom, it happens. So these activities sometimes are manifested in this material world. Actually, the entire material creation is the will of the Lord. So it manifested through his desires for our purification. So this, in fact, are all the activities of material nature are actually performed by the Supreme Lord, by his inconceivable energies. But the so-called scientists and the students of material nature, they are unable to understand how these things are happening. Okay, so Krishna here is known as what? Natasya, the one who is an actor. He's on a stage, just like when you do some drama, you put on some disguise, and then you go and act on the stage. Some of your friends cannot recognize you, maybe your children cannot recognize you, but you're the same person. And then you go away and you do not know who that person was. So in the same way, the word natasya means an actor or a magician. It is very important because Krishna is the best actor and the best magician also. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives an amazing story about a magician. He came to one great king and he told him, I can do this magic that you will be amazed by. So he took a jewel necklace and then he made the jewel necklace of the king disappear. Then he said, you have all these coins. He told the king to bring all these things. So the king brought all those things. And he said, oh, look, the gold coin. Now I'll make this disappear and you cannot have it. Boom, it disappears. And the king is looking, wow. And then he says, bring all your horses. So the king brings 7,000 horses. And then he says, now you cannot have it. I'll take it away. Boom. And all the 7,000 horses disappear. And then he creates all this illusion. Then the king's children, he disappears. Then the king's grandchildren, then his brothers, then his family members. And then he makes them all fight with one another. And then they all die in front of the king. And then they disappear. Then the king hears the magician saying that that he is sitting in the great hall, he is the greatest, the representative of the Supreme Lord, and I have studied this magic from my guru, and I've also learned some mystic yoga meditation, and I will, I don't like all these things that are happening in life. I want to give up my body now. So right in front of the king, he sits down, closes his eyes, then he practices pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi. And then right in front of the Lord, the fire comes out of his body in front of the king. And then he becomes into an ash. And then all the wives of the magician, he brought his family. And then they jumped into this fire. And then they all disappeared. Then there was nothing. Just ashes. The king is all alone. He's thinking, what has happened? Then 3 or 4 days later, the magician, he has already gone back to his own state province, and then he sends one of his daughters back to the king. And then when the daughter came to the king, she said, oh, my king, I have come back to your palace. I've been bringing you with you. invisibly, all the sons, your grandsons, your brothers, and your health, everybody will be with your jewels and all your material things. Please, therefore, she, they all are magicians. So suddenly he sees all of them. And then she says, now you can give me the money that is due to us if you see how good this is. So, so we are just like the king, all of us. We are bewildered by the magic of Krishna, by the material nature. How it is doing certain things we cannot understand. It's so difficult. But it's not difficult to understand the Supreme Lord. Although the laws of nature is this illusory potency, it can bewilder us. But when we take up service to Krishna, he reveals himself to us. So sometimes we read in the scripture, oh, Krishna and his family in Dwarka, right? They went to Prabhas and they had a big fight and they all died. But actually, it's the same thing. It's just an illusion. Uh, in reality, Krishna was going back to his kingdom. And so all the demigods, if you read the Bhagavatam, they were all watching and they were astonished. How is this possible? He was there, now he's flying, and then all of a sudden Krishna disappears from their vision, except for Brahma, a few sages, and Lord Shiva. And they saw that Krishna was going back to his Vaikuntha Goloka planet. And they were like, wow, this is amazing. Uh, but many people are bewildered. So even now they say, oh, Krishna died in Prabhas Kshetra, because they don't understand these things. Avajananti ma muddha manusam dhanam ashritam param bhavam ajananta mama bhuta maheshwaram. So people are bewildered. They think Krishna is an ordinary person just like them. But actually, he is a transcendental person. And they cannot understand that. So what is this material nature that's bewildering us? It is actually a working instrument for Krishna. That's all. He uses it as it's an energy, but he uses it to help us understand Krishna better. As long as we refuse to know Krishna, this energy will cover our intelligence, our consciousness. But as soon as we approach Krishna, the material energy will allow us to connect with Krishna. Okay. Now, this material energy is required in this material world, because without the energy, how can this nature itself, transpire and then as well as manifest properly? So without some energy working, how could the rose in your garden bloom so beautifully, right? If you look at it, how does it come so beautiful? There must be some energy working behind it. And we understand from the scripture that that energy is Krishna's energy. But it acts so subtly. You cannot see it, but it's so subtle and so swiftly. So one day you see the bud, the next morning you get up, it's a full, beautiful rose. And so wonderful, but we cannot understand how it's working. How is that working? So scientists will try to experiment and they'll tell you this is how it's working. But in actuality, this material energy is working automatically, but there's someone behind that. And Prabhupada says there must be a brain behind anything that is happening. We cannot just imagine that things just happen out of on its own. It doesn't work like that. For example, if you look at a painting, right? A painting, someone painted something. The painting just did not manifest on its own, right? And even if you're an intelligent person, you know there must be someone who has painted the picture. To paint a picture of a very nice rose, you have to take a brush and then you have to mix the colors, and then you have to then text your brain, and then you have to think, oh, it must look like this, and you make the changes. So just imagine, in the same way, to paint a real rose, a natural rose in your garden, it's created by the Lord's amazing energy. So there's so many energies behind the manifestation of one single rose. If you study science, you know there's so many forces acting on the plant, right? on the cellular level, all the way up to the gravitational force. The plant requires all that. In fact, it needs the sunlight, so many things. So there's so many energies of the Lord actually acting on the plant to produce a rose. So we shouldn't think that automatically the rose is coming. No, nothing is created automatically. The rose is created out of the energies of the Lord, but the energies are subtle. And so the artist that a nice flower can bloom overnight is actually functioning behind all of that. Okay. So therefore, based on this, we can say the greatest artist is Krishna. Right? No one, if you look at it nowadays in the electronic age, as I mentioned earlier, a scientist, he will just push one button and then the machine immediately works so perfectly, right? Even the airplane, when you're flying, you think the pilot is holding the thing all the time? No, he presses the automatic cruise and then it's flying. He may be walking to the bathroom and so on. So nobody is actually flying it. So it's amazing. Huh? So when we are looking at it, we are thinking, wow, look at the airplane is flying from one city to another city. It's amazing. Scientists are so wonderful. So if the scientists, they are just ordinary people, but with some brains, can do this kind of work so wonderfully simply by pushing some buttons, we should understand how great Krishna's ability to do and work these material universes, right? How much more powerful and fertile is Krishna's intelligence in comparison to the scientist's brain? Krishna simply desires and he says, let there be creation, and immediately it manifests. But we have, as I mentioned, we have to work so hard, like that. And also, if you look at a banyan tree, Prabhupada gives the example. Look at the banyan tree, so big, and it produces thousands and thousands of seeds. But from one seed, one tiny seed, an entire banyan tree can take place. So that is the amazing potency, or the amazing, you can say, technology of Krishna. Okay? So where is a scientist who can create such things? They cannot create that thing. Within this material world, where is anyone who can create such amazing art like a banyan tree? Right? So we should ask questions like this. How is that? Why they can't do that? But people don't ask. They just think they know everything. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Leela, there is a personality who's talking to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he is a Mayavad. He doesn't believe in the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So his disciples and all, they just think that one can, by studying from evidence, they can come to the right conclusion. Because Gopinath Acharya is talking how Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord. And they were like saying, no, we have to study all these things. He says, no, the scripture you have to accept like that. So they were arguing. So then it says, Shishya kahe Ishvara Tattva Shari Anumane, Acharya kahe Anumane Nahe Ishvara Jnane. So the Shishya, they were saying, by what evidence they were arguing, that do you conclude that Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord? Ishvara Tattva Shari Anumane. So where is that Tattva? They were arguing because Gopinath Acharya was saying he is the Supreme Lord. So then he replies, Anumane Nahe Ishvare Jnane. He says the statements of authorized acharyas, they understand the Supreme Personality of God. That is the proof. Not by reading and hypothesizing. No, not like that. So this Shishyas, the disciples of Sarvabhauma, they say, no, we do it through logical hypothesis. But then Gopinath Acharya, he replies, no, you cannot attain real knowledge of the Supreme Lord by logical hypothesis and argument. Anumane nahe. So you cannot use this hypothesis argument and then come to conclusion. Why? Because the Supreme Lord will not be easily understood by people who do not accept him. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha. In the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, Krishna says that Muddo yam na bijanati lokamam ajam avyayam. Meaning I'm never manifest to the fools and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my material or Maya Shakti or my internal, actually internal potency. And therefore, they do not know them unborn and inexhaustible. So, just like in the Mahabharata, when Krishna was there, a lot of people could not accept his position because they were covered by this material, the spiritual internal potency of Krishna. And therefore, they saw him just like an ordinary person. So as Prabhupada writes in this purport, even Kunti Devi also saw that, that how this person is like a Natyadara. She says that, Nato Natyadara. What does it mean? She was saying, Maya Javani Kachanam. That means Maya is deluding like a curtain of illusion. She is covering us. And therefore, we do not know your wonderful acts. You are an artist who can do all these things, and we are in this curtain of deluding energy. Because our senses are limited. We cannot understand you. So, to the foolish observer, you are invisible, exactly like an actor. That's what she is saying. Nato natyadara yatha. So, what she says is, Mudda drisha, that means the foolish person cannot see, drisha, that you are simply an actor dressed and the player cannot be recognized. So people cannot understand Krishna. Even when he manifests directly, they cannot understand him. So Gopinath says, Anumana pranana nahe ishvara tadve jnana kripa vina ishvare kehe nahe jane. One can understand Supreme only by his mercy. Kripa vina ishvarera. Okay, that means by his mercy only. Bhaktya mam avajananti. In Bhagavad Gita, he says also, not by guesswork or hypothesis. Why? Because he's adokshaja. Adokshaja means he's beyond our material conception, material knowledge. Our senses are imperfect. And therefore, using anumana, hypothesis with our senses, we will never understand the position of God. Okay? But we should know and we should try to understand who is this person. That is our goal. Athatho Brahma Jigyasa. This is the goal of the human body. Who is this person? Who am I? Why am I in this situation? When we ask this question, how this is manifested, how is this universe created, then we can come to the proper understanding. Simply saying, oh, this is happening by nature automatically, that is not a sufficient explanation. That's not proper also. When people ask, when we were growing up, when we ask our elders, they will say, oh, just accept it, don't argue. So, and that's why many people give up the Vedic tradition, because the parents or the so-called intellect, they do not know how to explain properly. And so people in India have given up the traditions because they don't understand all these things. But it's all in the Vedas, it's in the scriptures. And when we take some time to look at it and ponder on it and ask proper questions, we will come to the proper understanding. So simply saying, oh, it's like that, don't ask question, Just like if you have a daughter and you want your daughter to marry, you simply bring some donkey and then tell your daughter, please marry this donkey. How is that possible? But my dear dad, I don't want to marry this donkey. Then the father will say, no, my dear daughter, the donkey has a PhD, the donkey has $10 million to his name. Please marry the donkey. So most parents are like that. They don't see the qualification, whether the boy is spiritual or not. They just see, is he a hardworking donkey that can provide for the family. So, so we shouldn't be like that. We should ask, inquire. Huh? Yat- Athato Brahma Jigyasa. We should be like that. And then Janmadiyasya Yataha. The absolute truth is He from whom everything comes. Janmadiyasya Yataha. So this is the very beginning. Vyasadeva makes this aphorism like the truth, the statement in the beginning of the Bhagavatam to establish the position. So we have to expand our vision, not just everyone now know, we are all stuck in the home. So like I mentioned, the most instead of going to the front door, most of you go to the refrigerator door. That's the door that you see mostly, because that's the situation nowadays. We don't know what else to do. But we have to expand our vision from the small things to the big things. We become amazed when we read about NASA, where they fly all these small spaceship into the sky, to the moon, to other planets, and we are saying, oh, these scientists are so wonderful. But they never find out who is God, or is there God? What is God? So they don't do all those things. So we should ask them, okay, you say you are so scientist, so prove to me, the position of God. So we should also compare this small spaceship, Prabhupada says, we should compare that to the millions and trillions of planets and stars. There's one tiny planet here, Earth planet, and it has so many oceans and skyscrapers and mountains. And if you go out into space, it becomes just another small spot, nothing else, just a spot. And then you look in the sky, there are millions of such spots, millions of planets floating in the sky. So we give so much credit to some scientists in this who makes a small spaceship. But how much credit should we give to the person who created this entire cosmos, right? So when we think like that, then we can give credit and appreciate Krishna better. In that way, we become thankful to the Supreme Lord. In the Brahma Samhita, Yasha Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti Kote Sheshe Vasudadi Vibhuti Binnam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesha Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That verse says how this cosmos is actually manifested. From him comes all this indivisible, infinite, limitless universe just manifesting. And if you are very intelligent, if you read further in the Brahma Samhita, you understand how each universe is coming on its own. The scientists cannot understand this. We cannot even finish studying the nearest planet, the moon. What to speak about millions and billions of other planets, right? The scientists went a few times, they sent spaceship, now they don't know, and then again they're trying to spend, they didn't even study the moon completely. Now they want to go to Mars and colonize Mars. Why? Because there's too much problems in this earth. They don't know how to solve the problem. So they go to another planet, they want to colonize and create the same problem there. Rascal them, okay? All these things. But we can see, Yashya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti. What does it mean? From this effulgence of the Brahman, or from the Lord himself, all these things are manifesting. It is amazing. When we see that, it is amazing. And if you really try to understand, Jagananda, universes, innumerable, Kotiswa. So Koti Kotiswa, so much. So that's how he's creating. So by being submissive and then appreciating what he can or cannot do, we can actually understand Krishna's position. The scientists are putting so many theories, right? When I grew up in the 60s and 70s, the Big Bang theory, what is it? The technology cannot, their technology cannot see far enough for the history of our universe, how actually it started. But they are certain that, they are very certain that it starts from a singularity. That means from a tiny spark. but they really don't know how this spark manifested in the beginning also. But they calculate what we call the cosmic microwave background radiation. They say that's a leftover heat from the Big Bang theory. So they're trying to study this echo in an attempt to map out this entire creation. Um, but they cannot really explain how this thing came about, you know, from one singularity, how suddenly the universe expanded so fast. And if it did, then what about the gravitation and all those will have affected it. So they are not sure how those things did not affect the different universes, because if you are expanding and then at the same time there's gravity forces there, it should crumple. So therefore they have to work out their formula. So they kind of use it as a basis for further theory. So then the next theory they come out is the big bounce theory, which means the universe expands and then it bounces back into a small and then big expand bouncing. So this is called the bouncing theory. When it expands as a rapid. So all these are their theories, and they try to use mathematical formulas to show it works. But because they do not know completely how the material energy works, the formulas fail. There are some aspects, some dimension of these formulas they cannot. They work in 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, but then they find they need to add more dimensions. So then they go into different types of contractions, inflationary universe creation, and then the theory assumes the universe was before us. Eventually, it'll contract into an infinitely hot, dense cluster. And then Stephen Hawking, he comes up with another theory, no boundary theory. That means he says originally there was the universe was always there, and then it's just expanding. All right, but then again, their formulas, the mathematics the scientists use cannot work out. So then they come up with the string theory. They say the whole universe is there's all tiny strings, and the strings can fold, and then they can twine and then combine to form atoms, protons, and all those things. So they can answer some things, but then the string theory cannot answer the different dimensions. So again, we have to go back to their drawing board. So, but actually, all these are crazy ideas, because the answer is in the 2nd canto and the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you read it, you will see how Lord Brahma, when he was created, he gets the empowerment from Narayana or Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Then he goes into the lotus flower. And then from the lotus flower, this is amazing, he expands the lotus flower, the stem of the lotus flower, into the different dimensions, upper planetary, lower planetary, and into the vast reaches of the universe. So he creates the entire universe. So this is the expansion. So when the scientists are calculating, they are only seeing a portion of it, and they say, oh, the universe is expanding. And then in another aspect, when the time to wrap up, Brahma will just stay there, and Rudra will come and wipe the entire universe off. And so the scientists will never understand how these are happening. But all these answers cannot make sense. No need for so many formulas and cracking your head up. All you know is Brahma had the vision and he could do it. He could manifest it. So, but there are so many people who will not accept what we say about Krishna. And they cannot even understand how the material nature works. But they will buy into some silly, even conspiracy theory. You know, there's a British guy, his name is theorist. You can check it up, David Icke, I-C-K-E, David Icke. So he came up with his own theory. So all are icky theories, I would say, just silly theories. So he published a book, The Biggest Secret, So in his book, he says that there are lizards, humanoid lizards, living among the human race. And then he says these lizards have taken over different society in Earth, and he claims the family of Rothschild, multi-million Rothschild, they are also the reptiles. The Bush family, our President Bush. And then he also was saying that, and these people say, that one of the secret agents for Obama he is also a reptile. And then you can see all this, all this kind of conspiracy theories. So people are willing to listen to those things. But when you talk about Krishna and creation, oh no, we cannot. This is impossible. This is all too much. But they can all accept these kind of things. And in fact, according to statistics, at least 17 million people in the United States of America believe in all these conspiracy theories and so on. Just imagine 17 million, That's a lot of people who are just fools or muddhas. So anyway, what we can see is the scientists are formulating different theories to understand Krishna's material energy. Every time they come up with one formula, something else is found missing. All of this material nature is made possible by Krishna's bodily effulgence, Brahma Jyoti. Therefore, the Jnanis, they try to approach the Supreme Lord by mental speculation, by dint of their tiny brain power. But at the most they can approach is only the Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, the illumination of Krishna's body. Okay, but they cannot really understand Krishna. That this Brahman is coming from Krishna, they cannot understand. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakale Ashanta Krishna Bhakta Niskama Ateva Shanta. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, those who are after this material thing, Bhukti, Mukti, all those Jnanis, Siddhi Kami, the yogis, so they all are pursuing. But they all are ashanta. Why? They are all disturbed because they want something, something material. So as soon as we want something material, we will be disturbed. Shakale ashanta. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama. Nishkama means no personal desire. So Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta. So then the devotee, because he has no personal desires, he is actually peaceful in his life. Because he doesn't have to worry how this is formulated, how this is created. He doesn't have to worry. He knows Krishna did all these things. And if he really wants to know, he can read the scriptures and the answers are all there. So therefore, those who have developed love of God, they are enjoying transcendental pleasure every moment by seeing the artistic work of Krishna everywhere. Right? So that should be our position. As a devotee, we should see, oh, this is so wonderful. You go outside, there's sun shining very nicely, beautifully. So you can say, Krishna is so amazing. Look how he gave this sun. Right? So that is Krishna consciousness. So we see everything Krishna, everywhere Krishna. And then we become Krishna conscious. Our mind is all connected to Krishna. Everything is connected. Means we become also liberated by this consciousness. Ya yasya hare dasya karmana manasa gira nikilasva pi avastasu jivan mukta sa uchyate. Anyone who by his actions, mind and words, live for the loving service of Krishna is certainly liberated. This is by Rupa Goswami. He writes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Even though he may appear to be actively doing material things, but because he lives by his actions, by his mind and words. So if each and every one of us contemplate carefully our day-to-day activities, we always connect with Krishna, whatever we do, then we also will become Jivan Mukta. Okay. Now, Prabhupada says, seeing Krishna everywhere is not difficult, right? Like I said, if you go out and see the sun and say, oh, Krishna has placed it there, that's Krishna's eyes, he's looking at me. So that is Krishna consciousness. Or another example is, let's say you are thirsty and you drink some water. Okay, when you drink, you feel so much pleasure drinking. Now, Krishna says he is the reservoir of all pleasure. Rasovai Saha. Then he says, if you drink water, Prabhupada says, if you drink, he says, Rasoham apsa kantaya. Right? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. If you look at 7th chapter Bhagavad Gita, I am the taste of water, Arjuna. Rasovai, Rasoham apsu kantaya. I am the taste in water, Arjuna. So for an ordinary person, they cannot fully appreciate Krishna. Krishna is giving the instruction that he is the taste of water, he is the potency in the lion, he is the strength in the mountain, like that. If you simply try to understand that the taste that you drink in the water is Krishna, you become God conscious, like that. So when we take prasadam, we don't just eat like a dog or like an animal. No, we should honor. That is why we say we honor prasadam. When you take the prasad, when you taste it, you must understand Krishna also tasted it. So now you're tasting what Krishna has tasted. So by thinking like that, you become Krishna conscious. Okay, so this is training, little training. It's not so difficult. Simply by thinking like that, then you become a good devotee. Otherwise, you are a rascal. Prabhupada says you are a rascal. Then you will not come back to or go back to Godhead. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naitimamiti so Arjuna. So if you become Krishna conscious, then you understand why Krishna takes his avatar in this material world. Then you appreciate Krishna, then you become grateful to Krishna, thankful for Krishna. Then punarjanma naitimamiti so Arjuna. So for this new year, make a resolution of all resolution. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, Vismartavya najatu. See, read the Bhagavad Gita as it is. You'll find all the information you need to become Krishna consciousness. But okay, if you don't want to read, at least chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you should be like that. Then you'll become Krishna conscious. Okay, I will stop here. Any comments, reflections, questions? Feel free to do so.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bo Radha Damodar.
Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
So, one question I have is, about Krishna's desires. Whenever we have Krishna makes a desire, then everything happens. So, what actually is directing his desires? Curious to know.
What is directing Krishna? Well, Krishna is the original person. So he is what we call a person who is always trying to enjoy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always trying to enjoy any situation. And you will notice in ourselves, we also have similar tendency, right? If we are left on our own, we will do something to enjoy something else. Somehow or other we will try. So our nature is to enjoy. Anandam buddhi vyasa. So our intelligence, everything is focused on wanting to enjoy. So he is a supreme enjoyer. So what is that pushing? That's what it is. Now, when it comes to us in this material world, his desire is that we come and enjoy with him. Okay, that's his desire. But we are reluctant to enjoy with him. And therefore, we have this situation of chasing a phantasmagoria. Prabhupada uses that word, an illusion, to try to enjoy the illusion. And therefore, we suffer in this material. But when we understand what is Krishna's desire, that we are supposed to enjoy with him, then we can focus properly. Okay? I hope that satisfies you.
Yes.
Okay.
I have one more question, but I think I'll let others ask first.
Yeah. Anyone else? Or you can want to text the message or in the chat or whatever.
I think they are not able to unmute. That's
Okay, then they should.
No, we get the permission, the ability to unmute Prabhu. Pushpanjali Mataji has a question, looks like.
She can't unmute.
Okay.
Okay, let me unmute Mataji.
Now to try.
Yeah, now it works.
Mhm.
Yeah, chat is also disabled. Prabhuji, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I read a verse which said that there are two kinds of witches, one of material desires and the other is the desire to get free from the material world. So I found it a very hard verse, Prabhuji. I mean, right now, I mean, that is only at least my state where, just want freedom from this material world and the desire to, do whatever Krishna wants, wherever he wants. That is not there. So, I mean, uh, sometimes the motivation to do devotional service is that I'll be free of this material world and its
Right.
miseries. How at our stage, what should we aim next for if we are not there where we can say I'll do whatever Krishna wants wherever he wants me to do?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is true. We are all not at the level where we can abandon our material activities. In general, what you need to know is what Krishna told Arjuna, right? He says you have to do your prescribed duties. So, one should center around that. And just like Prabhupada was, as I gave the example of what Prabhupada was saying, we should understand like that connect everything with the Supreme Lord. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm still attached to something material. That's okay. Maybe you want to buy another, BMW. So you attach to it. Okay, you buy that, but use it to bring the devotees around. Go to the airport, pick some swamis or maharaj, or buy stuff for the deities in the car. Use it in that service. So if your consciousness is slowly you adapt into using it in the service of Krishna, you'll find it works. Maybe not immediately, but it takes time. Everything takes time, but the desire must start somewhere. The original desire will be there, but in the beginning, your progression may be very difficult. But if the desire is strong, eventually it will be exponential increment in your service to Krishna. Initially, it's a tag with a fight, a tug of war with the material desires and spiritual considerations. But as you show sincerity to Krishna, eventually he will help you give up the material attachments. But, but ultimately, we have to understand that this is what I want, but my situation is like that. I will do that. Now, to further your ability to give up material things, then you have to have proper association. Simply sitting in your home and then saying, Krishna, take me back, it doesn't work that way. Okay, one should have proper association and do proper service. There was a disciple who told his spiritual master, my dear spiritual master, I cannot give up my material desires. It is so difficult. So his spiritual master said, come tomorrow, I will tell you the solution. And then he said, okay, come to my ashram. So then the disciple came to the ashram and then he knocked on the door and then he said, my Guru Maharaj, I'm here. Please allow me to come in. And then he heard some mumbling noise. Then he said, he knocked, then he shouted louder, Guru Maharaj, I'm here. Then his Guru Maharaj shouted. He said, I'm at the back in the garden, in the back of the house. Please come, help me, help me. Then he said, oh, Guru has a problem. So he immediately opened the door, ran into his home, went to the back door, went into the garden. Then he saw his Guru holding a big tree. Okay, he's just holding the tree. Then he said, Guru Maharaj, what happened? What happened? He said, oh, I cannot let go. I do not know what to do. I cannot let go of the tree. Then the disciple was saying, Guru Maharaj, just give up the tree like that, then you will be okay. He said, no, no, I cannot. I cannot. They said, no, Guru Maharaj, it's so easy. Just give up. Then the Guru looked at him and said, this is the same way. You say you cannot give up your material desires. You just have to try. You have to give it up like that. So sometimes we hide behind some reasons that are in ignorance, actually. So by reading Prabhupada's books and by doing service, the ignorance is removed. When the ignorance is removed, then your original nature can see in singular focus how to do the service properly. And that's how you get out of these clutches of material energy. Okay? I hope that is sufficient.
For the first witch it is. For the second witch, I still want some more pointers, Prabhuji, where, if our desire is always to get out of this material world, or even if that is not a good desire to have, then what
That is okay. You should think of getting out of this world, but then you should focus more on doing service. Solution for getting out is service. So instead of just thinking I want to get out, why don't you just think of how much more service I can do, right?
Mhm.
So the positive thing is I want to do more service, and that indirectly will take you out of this material. One should think like that instead of thinking I want to get out, I want to get out. Yeah, what are you doing about it? That's the question.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So the talk was very nice, and I really like Pushpanjali Mataji's question, and it helped me to get some more answers. But Prabhu, what happens with me is there is this inside desire to do more and more service. And through the temple, through Satyasai Prabhu, we do get opportunity and there is more desire. But when we start doing all these things, what starts happening is a question starts coming in mind that, oh my God, am I balancing everything right? Or what am I doing? I'm forgetting about work. I'm forgetting about these things. So then my mind starts questioning. And like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, last 2 days, I was in bliss. We were very thankful for temple activities and for all the home seva, which we are trying to do in our own lives. But then the question came is, oh my God, are my kids doing right? Because the whole day they spend in chanting Bhagavad Gita for hours. They were making dainty clothes and all, but what happens to their studies? So there is this, I think it's a relation to Pushpanjali Mataji's question, as I understand, but how do we balance it all? And when kids and we are going on the right thing, seems like Krishna consciousness, something, our sanskaras hold us back. And even when they're holding us back, the push from inside is so much to go in Krishna consciousness, and that is breaking us into pieces. Anything you want to add?
I think the answer is just very, I feel the answer is very straightforward. It is just time management. Okay. So you can draw up a weekly schedule of how much time you want to do service, and the rest of time your work, your family, and so. So both of you should discuss how much you can spend, and like that. Once you have a plan, you can see the plan through. But if you have no plan, how do you know how to get through your goals, right? So make goals, break it down to sub goals, and then see how you can define those sub goals, and then schedule a day, each day how much time for chanting, time for reading, and then the rest should be between your family, your work, and so on. So when you think like that, it's easier. But when you see it from when you're on the ground, you cannot see how far the land is. But when you go up on the spaceship and look down, you see how big the land mass is actually. So in the same way, when you are stuck in the middle of your situation, you think it's overwhelming. But actually, if you rise above it, then you can see actually it's manageable. All right. So in that way, I would suggest both you, Pankaj and Shika, you both of you just manage your time, and then make sure you do not neglect your children. Raising children properly is also Krishna conscious. All right. So, and then working nicely and setting good examples to your colleagues is also Krishna conscious. Therefore, you should think like that. All right, not just abandoning everything. Like Arjuna wanted to go to the forest, and Krishna said, "This is nonsense. You should do your duties properly." All right, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Bol Prabhu.
Prabhu, one question, so like whenever we do chanting, myself, so uh, whenever the mind is wandering and as soon as realize when I am trying to bring back, as Radha Damodar Prabhu repeatedly says in Japa conference, so sometimes I'm not realizing that it is wandering somewhere, and I notice it that that round is finished so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually
So that's good, no? You can do 64 rounds like that.
yeah. So then I like usually I take 7.5 minutes, but it is completing in 4.5 to 5 minutes. Then
Yes, that's because you miss, and you're fingering and you're missing the beats, and then you're moving on. That's why you're having 4.5.
yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. That is the reason. Then so what is the solution for this? Now I am doing what 7.5 minutes timer I'm putting.
Okay.
If I'm completing 6.5, then I'm 1 minute. I'm just doing extra mantras.
Yeah, yeah. So
How?
I think the problem is you're not aware of yourself. You are losing consciousness of your existence. So therefore, your mind takes over. Things you can do is as soon as you are thinking of something, you stop chanting. You put your beats down.
Okay.
And then you analyze and ask your mind, what is it you want? Let's get it out of the way. You know, that's one way. Okay. The other thing is instead of just chanting, trying to focus, you can have a picture of your spiritual master, picture of Prabhupada, picture of Krishna, or even Krishna book in front of you, so that when the mind tries to run, you look at them, or you can read a passage of the Krishna book or Bhagavad Gita. So that way you're always Krishna conscious. At least you're Krishna conscious. And then you can then start chanting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, if you miss a round, let's say you miss the chanting, he says he starts over again. He says you cannot count it. So let's say you find that you chanted for 4 minutes, and that's a good thing. By timing, you know if you're chanting properly or not. And you find that you've done it for 4 minutes, you don't count the round, you restart the round. So that way your mind will get very frustrated in trying to cheat you, and eventually your mind will give up cheating you. It will try something else, but at least this way it will stop. But this is going to take forever. Remember, you have gone through millions and trillions and billions of lifetimes where the mind did what it wanted and you followed. Now in this lifetime, you're trying to tell the mind, stop, and it's saying, Hare, who are you? I've always been your well-wisher. Now you are telling I do not know. So it is going to give you some problems until you can nicely control it, which is why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, when you get up in the morning, you take a chappal and hit your mind, brain, to say, listen to the chanting. And before you sleep, you take the broom and hit the brain again. Hit. They say, you listen, you foolish brain, foolish mind, like that. But if you can do this simple things like stop chanting and then ask your mind, what is the situation? What's the big thing that you're thinking of? And then immediately you come to the presence. So you have to be in the present. That means you are aware of yourself. Now this happens to all of us and we all go through difficulties, So, but if you do it nicely, we will become successful.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I have another question. If
Sure.
no one asks, I will.
No, you can ask the.
So another thing, so controlling the senses, which I found that food. So like how to control that food, like want to eat sweets and all like.
Well, it's okay. It's nothing wrong, except you may have to follow certain standards. Like in the morning, you eat a good meal. Afternoon, you should eat a hearty meal. And in the evening, you should eat a light meal. So based on those principles, now if sweets are not good to be eaten in the evening, okay, so then you should say, I'll eat my sweet in the either morning or noontime. That's it, like that. And remember, up to a certain age, you can eat sweets. And then once you hit your 40s, you'll just increase your cholesterol. That's all. And then that's a question whether you want to have a heart problem or not. So you have to think how much you want to have a heart attack, how you want to die, you can decide, have a heart attack or had a blood pressure or. So these are some of the things you have to ask yourself as you put the sweets in your mouth, ask yourself how I want to die. By diabetes or, cholesterol or what. And so that will make you realize next time when you eat that I will take a little to honor Krishna Prasad, not to indulge in some sense gratification. Now, be it as it is, we tend to we control our senses more than most people. So therefore, our only sense gratification is eating. So, but make sure we eat nicely, but don't overeat. So, because even overeating is sense gratification, even though it may be prasadam. For someone who's new to Krishna conscious, it's okay, they can overeat. For someone who is practicing for a while, then he should moderate himself or herself sufficiently. Okay. So yeah, if you take these rules and then in your family, maybe don't use sugar to cook anymore. I do not know what style of cooking you all do, but if you put sugar in everything you cook, then you stop putting sugar in your cooking things. Unless it's a sweet, it shouldn't be with sugar like that. So adjustments is possible. I remember when I first came to some, like here in Houston, majority of the devotees were Gujarati. So they had sugar and everything. So it was so sweet. Uh, and so I would only pick and choose because I can't handle the thing. And they would laugh at me. But after 10, 15, 20 years, many of them have diabetes and so on. So they are all not eating sweets now. So you have to understand, why wait for such situation, right? So we are not so mobile. We are all sitting at home. Now with the pandemic, you are stuck with the computer screen. So you're not burning off the energies as you used to. Obviously, you all should go out and do some exercise, take a walk, half an hour, everyone should do some exercise, at least weekly, once or twice, like that. So that way, your health will be good. And then if you're healthy, as they say, healthy, wealthy, and wise. So what is the wealth? The wealth is a knowledge of Krishna. That's what our wealth is. So we should be healthy, then wealthy, then we'll be wise enough to go back to Godhead. Yeah. All right. Hare Krishna. Yes, Radha Damodar, you have a question? Who has a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Vamana Hari. Please accept my obeisance.
Hey, Haribo, Vamana Hari. So nice to see you. Happy New Year.
I have a question. You are answering Satyarupa Prabhu's question about chanting and the consciousness. You mentioned some word that if he is chanting, your consciousness is not there or you are in something. I could not catch that.
So sometimes when we are chanting, we are thinking of something else.
Yeah.
So that means your consciousness is not in the meditation of the holy name. So that's what I meant by your consciousness. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, on these similar lines, if we are chanting and a thought comes around Krishna, so Krishna's clothes, Krishna's bed, is that okay or is that not okay?
That's okay. It's Krishna consciousness.
Ji Prabhu. And then also Prabhu, at least the way I've been trained is that when we are chanting, we need to keep our eyes closed because otherwise the focus goes on so many things. So Prabhu, two questions. Do we always have to, is it better to chant with our eyes closed? And then the second one is, I've heard that if we are a lot of people like walk and chant, and we should not do that because that's mode of passion. At least that's my understanding. So please, Prabhu, a little bit more light on chanting and how to
Actually, Nam
chant better.
Nam Akhari Bauda Nija Sarva Shakti Tatra Pitanyam Smarane Na Kalaha. The holy name can be chanted anytime, any place, any way. All right, there's no hard and fast rules. But having said that, yes, if you are chanting sitting down, it's in the mode of goodness, and it allows you to focus better than when you are walking or doing other things, and it's natural. But it doesn't mean you cannot. Some people have to walk because their mind disturbs them so much, and they walk to chant, and that's okay. They may be doing many nice services. You can compare. One person can chant so nicely sitting down, but he or she may not do much service at the temple. Another person may be walking up and down, but he's doing a lot of service. So we cannot compare like that. And but ideally, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if you can sit down and chant, it's the best. Yeah, and if you can close your eyes, you can chant, that's okay. But I've seen many people who close their eyes, they start snoring and sleeping. So maybe not at the beginning stage. When you become steady in ability to chant sitting down, then you can. You're not supposed to fully close. It should be half close. Okay, so fully close, you will sleep. If you are not in the mode of goodness, you will sleep. I've seen that. Um, and that's why we encourage people to walk, because if they sit down, they will just start sleeping. So better if they walk, at least they are chanting the holy name. Now, if you are looking around, if you're sitting in your temple room, there's pictures of Krishna and everything. So you look at them, it's fine. There's nothing wrong. As you advance in your Krishna consciousness and as you train your mind to focus more and more, then you can meditate on the holy name with half closed eyes like that. But in the beginning, we don't have to get so mental about it. But at the same time, we should ask, am I wasting time walking around and not focusing? Then you should sit down and then try to focus. So, it's individual. It's very hard to, if your guru says sit down and chant, then you better do it. That way, at least your mind is focused. But on your own, mostly you will do what your mind is telling you, right? So, yeah. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, on the same note, I do mostly, walking and, because I have deity pictures all over the house, so different deity pictures. So I go there and stand there in front of the deity and see each and every features of the deity. So is it wrong to do that, Prabhu?
No. As I said, no. There's no. As long as your consciousness is on chanting and seeing Krishna, it's fine. You can think you're walking from Vaikuntha to Goloka in your house. So each room you can have different pictures. Ram Leela. So you can say, I'm now in Ram Katha. Now I'm going to Krishna Katha, like that. So you can think like that and then you can chant. So whatever is connected to Krishna, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. So you are practicing real renunciation while you're walking. Srila Prabhupada also used to walk and chant. So we shouldn't think that it's, obviously he's a pure devotee, but it means he did it in front of his disciples, which means it's okay. It's not the end of the world. As you make advancement, maybe when Krishna thinks you need to sit and chant, he will give you some arthritis or hip pain, and then you have no choice. You have to sit down and chant, right? Yeah. So think like that, and you'll be all right. Always think that Krishna is your well-wisher. Why would he want you to, suffer in this material world? We suffer because we make bad choices. Yeah. Right. In this case, if someone tells you, oh, Prabhu, this is wrong, you shouldn't, don't take it so personally. And if they are very senior and they are staying with you in your home, then to please them, you can sit and chant. Maybe if you can't sit on the floor, you can sit on a chair, Like some of us cannot sit on the floor because we have a knee problem, back problem, stuff like that. So then sit in a chair and chant like that. All right?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So,
I will.
Hare Krishna. So the last question I have was about, we shouldn't be using any logic, was the statement earlier, like, because we should just accept whatever is written in the scriptures.
Yes.
In context it was correct. But once we have accepted the, Acharya statements, then shouldn't we use logic to understand further?
Well, logic can only take you to some level. Logic applies only within this material realm. Okay, the Lord is transcendental, so logic doesn't work in the transcendental realm because he can appear and disappear in front of you, right? And then he can manifest 2 hands, 4 hands in front of you. So there's no logic behind that. So he can turn into a small baby or a big man, and that's no logic. How? But the logic you are saying is transcendental understanding. Yeah. So using your transcendental understanding, you can define it in material terms to someone who's not able to understand it. So that then you can, for them, it may appear logical. Now, having said that, unless the person has a certain level of purification, no amount of logic can make sense to them. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Anything else? Any reflections or anything else? Otherwise,
Well,
Satyasar takes
yes,
over.
it is getting late for you, and it's
No, it's okay. I don't mind. It's a new year. We can start auspiciously. Yeah.
okay. There are no other questions. Maybe we can conclude here.
Okay.
So, Prabhu, thank you very much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class and for bestowing your blessings upon us. So, you beautifully explained. At least the reflection for me is we should accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any doubt, because that is a conclusion of the great sages. So we don't need to do any research or experiment to understand that fact. And the point you made with the story of the king, that we are just like the king, we are bewildered by the magic of Krishna actually. But when we take up the service to Krishna, and when we chant, do our sadhana properly, then he reveals himself to us and everything will make sense to us in this life and whatever is happening. So we can understand it better. And the most important point, at least for me, is that by being submissive to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, we can begin to understand him. So that's the most important point I'm taking away from this class. So thank you very much for the beautiful New Year message. We are very grateful to you, Prabhu, for giving us your holy association. So with that, let us chant loudly Hare Krishna Mantra 3 times to show gratitude to Radha Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. As I want to also say, have a very good year, Krishna conscious year. I know the pandemic is going to, make difficulties for all of us, but be safe. Don't take chances. Don't think you can do and Krishna will protect you. Prabhupada said, don't be a fool, So take all precautions and at the same time, have strong faith in Krishna and you will be successful in this year. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. And with that, devotees will conclude here, and I will see you all on Sunday morning. His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj is giving his extraordinary mercy to all of us. So I will humbly request everyone to please join with your video on, and it's going to be a great experience for all of us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.